What's going on, guys? It's your boy the Markham Knight here. Today's video is going to be all about the Creature Commandos. Very first two episodes dropped. I want to get right into a review, and then I want to talk about a little bit of a breakdown of how this might fit into the larger DCU. This is the very first thing that DCU has done. This is the very first project, so let's get right into it. First thing I want to talk about is how we got a little bit of a similar introduction here to Task Force M, M standing for Monsters, as we did to Task Force X in James Gunn's The Suicide Squad. And I really like this approach. I do feel like a lot of people might point out that it's kind of similar to The Suicide Squad, or it's kind of similar to Guardians of the Galaxy, of how we get introduced to these characters. But anytime you're doing something like an ensemble or something, doing it this way actually saves a lot of time. It gives us some quick exposition, but it doesn't bore us with too many details. It kind of gives us, these are the bullet points of what you need to know about these characters before we get into the story. So I didn't mind that at all. Speaking of the Suicide Squad, we do get a lot of continuity here because Amanda Waller is back from the Suicide Squad, from Peacemaker, and so is Weasel. Weasel's also at the end of the Suicide Squad movie. We saw that Weasel survived. And then we also see here that Amanda Waller mentions Project Starfish and how he's one of the few to survive that. So we do have a little bit of canon there. And James Gunn talked about what is canon is basically what is said during this show. If it's not said during this show, you can't count it as canon. But now we know there are parts of the Suicide Squad movie that are canon. Project Starfish is obviously when they took up a fight against Starro. And she even mentioned to Rick Flag Sr. that his son died during that in Puerto Maltese. So we know that a lot of that stuff that happened in the Suicide Squad is canon. And she also mentioned that after everything that went down, and the stuff that went down was what happened in Peacemaker, where her daughter outed her and outed Argus, and how they were using humans to do what they were doing in Task Force X, which was basically a Suicide Squad, to have them run these like crazy ops. And now she wants to do something different, which is not use humans, but use monsters. So this is where we get introduced to all these characters. So the first character I want to talk about is the one that we got a full episode dedicated to her, and that's the Bride of Frankenstein, or just Bride is how they call her in this. I got a lot of Poor Things vibes. I don't know if anyone has watched Poor Things. If you have, it's the Emma Stone movie, but you get a kind of someone who's just newly born, so she has to be taught everything from the beginning, but she also kind of has the closest relationship to her creator. Now, the creator, who's Dr. Frankenstein, created for her for his monster Frankenstein, who wanted a bride. But because she was new to the world and just born, he had to kind of introduce everything to her, so she wasn't able to kind of let Frankenstein go in and have that relationship with her right off the bat. And eventually they kind of developed a little bit of a relationship, even to the point where it became a romantic relationship. And this is kind of a little bit different from some of the stuff from the past. This is the Bride versus Frankenstein, which is kind of a cool concept. Obviously, she has a little bit of a sad story, and she's introduced to this situation kind of like a doe, like the one that's completely innocent and everything right off the bat. And she's obviously introduced to the horrors of the world when she sees the monster Frankenstein killed Dr. Frankenstein. And that's obviously one of the people, the only person at the time that she was in love with. But now she's gone over all these years and kind of discovered the world and stuff. So that's the Bride, and that's kind of cool. We also have Nina Muzarsky, who's kind of a sad character. We haven't really seen anything villainous from her, so I don't know why she was in Belle Reve to begin with. But we know something's going on there. Obviously, she's had a really tough time growing up and everything, but we don't know her backstory at all. All we know is she's someone who looks different, and obviously she's been treated differently. But as the Bride said, she's the most human out of them, even though she's not physically human in any way. G.I. Robot, I feel like a lot of it is comic relief. He's obviously programmed to kill Nazis. I'm sure we'll see a little bit of that story in the past. And it's kind of interesting because he fought in the war against the Nazis, and one of those chronicles of the fights between the monster and the Bride, we get to see there in World War II. It's in the 1940s, I believe, where they're fighting, and we see that they're doing that. So maybe she's had a run-in with G.I. Robot in the past. We don't know that for a fact, but that would be pretty cool. And then Dr. Phosphorus, I feel like a lot of that is comic relief. He is kind of funny in how he carries himself and everything. Princess Alana, I do feel like there's probably something a little off about her. We even saw that Bride kind of gave her a weird look when she was getting a little close with Rick Flag Sr. Now, Rick Flag Sr., let's talk about him just a little bit. She did mention, Amanda Waller did mention that his son died. We will see he kind of might address this situation in Peacemaker, because he is going to be on the Peacemaker show, but he's also the through line through the first 3 projects of the DCU, because we know he's in this, obviously. We know that he's going to be in Superman, as we've seen some leaked set photos, and we also know that he's going to be in Peacemaker, and that his situation with Peacemaker will come up at some point. So it's really nice to see the canon and the continuity throughout this. Now let's talk about the biggest Easter egg and kind of insight into the DCU, the larger DCU. We got Circe. Circe is a Wonder Woman villain. I don't want to go too much into her backstory because I feel like it might be a little bit different in this one, because she claims she's the heir to Themyscira. And that's a very cool claim. Because if we remember when James Gunn was talking about all these projects he was announcing for the first phase, Gods and Monsters in the DCU, he mentioned a project called Paradise Lost. Now, Paradise Lost was supposed to be kind of like a Game of Thrones type story set in the history of Themyscira, and we get to see kind of a battle for the throne. And obviously, Circe here is claiming she's heir to Themyscira, so that battle for the throne thing, she might be a part of that. We might see Circe, who's played by Anna Chalotra, and Anna Chalotra was someone who was in The Witcher, and she was great in The Witcher, by the way, but seeing her show up and maybe play a huge part in the Paradise Lost TV series that's being adapted would be really, really cool. I'd be really down for that. But overall, my review for the first 2 episodes, I'm excited. We haven't gotten too much in terms of what this world looks like, but based on like something like the castle looked like it was from the times from way before, like the Middle Ages and stuff like that. We don't really have stuff like that anymore. We might have it somewhere in the world, but it's cool to see there is a little bit of a fantastical element to it. We're gonna see a lot of stuff obviously throughout the next few episodes, which I'm really, really excited for. The first 2 episodes did hit with me because I am a big fan of James Gunn's humor, whether it's Guardians of the Galaxy, whether it's been the Suicide Squad, obviously Peacemaker. A lot of that stuff I'm very into, and James Gunn himself did say almost all of Peacemaker is canon except for the Justice League, and he said the Justice League has not been established thus far in this universe. So it's going to be interesting to see kind of where they go from here, and obviously using this show to kind of sprinkle in tidbits about the larger DCU will be really cool for me to watch, and hopefully it is for you too. Anyways guys, did you watch the first 2 episodes? Did you enjoy it? Tell me what you think.
This is the Markham Knight, and I need you to like, comment, and subscribe.